Hi, welcome along. My name's Ross. I thought we'd start this new season because what we're going to do this time is let's look at context, because that's kind of the most important thing that we have within Power BI and within everything. And when I say context, I'm not talking about the dark stuff of context, so with where we have like the row and the visual and the filter context that there are now in DAX, but what we actually mean is where things are used and how it actually applies. Because what's often forgotten and what seems to be being missed more and more, and what I'm seeing with more and more of our clients, is a lot of the focus is shifting towards looking and saying, well, what's AI going to, what's this? But what's being forgotten is that we need to just get the basics right first. If we do the basics and the basics are done well, the rest falls into place much more easily. And getting the basics right is often the most difficult thing to do. So let's go have a look at some of the basics and see what we want. But first, do me a favor. Like and subscribe to the video, helps the channel, helps us keep doing what we're doing, and we'll get on with the video now. So you won't have seen this before. This is the Sunderland Parkruns overview report. Okay, you guys have seen the Jesmond Dean one, and you've probably seen the Newcastle one. If you haven't, we'll put a link down below to go and do that, or you should go and check some of the playlists out. And again, we'll put some playlists somewhere around here just to show you, help you find the other content for how this was built in the first place. Then it's just been expanded, and we've just lifted and shifted it to now point to Sunderland's data. Now, the key thing with this is that obviously context is everything. And the reason why I thought, I was looking around, looking at all the data sets that we've got around, I thought, which one should we look at? And we'll go through with this, we'll probably look at 3 or 4 of them. But there are some things in here that I kind of, I wish we could do. And one of them is kind of around these, where you can't really get a label on it. And this is definitely one of the issues that I've seen, or that we have with maps, that it doesn't really let you put labels on them. So if we went here and we said, well, let's bring in, pick the right thing, here, and we said, let's bring in events again. Okay. So this one, tracked events. It doesn't let you. Okay, so you're kind of stuck, because the only thing that you can really put on there is going to be lat long or stuff like that. So you're not having to put a tooltip in, which is fine, but it does mean there's no context over those maps. And that's definitely, this is one of the biggest headaches I have with maps, is when you get down to this level and you're saying, well, we're going to use latitude and longitude, which is the right thing, because there's no real other way of putting this. You can't then put a label on it. So we've put the legend in, which then helps color it, and then that color matches everything else, which is great. But what is that? Until you hover over it, you don't know. So context in that case is one of those things where maps are great, but because lat long doesn't allow you to put something on it or a label, it makes it really complicated and difficult to say this is the right thing for them. So that's, for me, still the biggest bugbear about maps. Got that off my chest now, we can carry on. If we scroll down here and we look, we see, so we've got like the unique volunteers here. So actually how many volunteers have been through. And it's interesting because what would you, contextually, we can see there's a progression up there. But, should we be putting a trend line on that? Would a trend line make sense? What would a trend line be for it, I guess, be the other thing. So, I mean, if we hover over again, we get the tooltip that comes out. We've got the person who's done the most. We've got the total number of volunteers, of unique volunteers, sorry, that event has had, because obviously this is a cumulative measure that we've got up here. So that 720 is cumulative, isn't it? So we need to know then, well, for Silksworth, they've had 202. So it's, it's kind of working through what's the right way to present these things. And this is one of those areas that I think we need to think through when we're presenting items up to our senior leadership teams, to our teams, to our colleagues. Context is everything. And if the visual doesn't explain what it needs to explain at a glance, you're going to struggle, because then people will assume other things make up their own mind with it. Is unique volunteers the right way? And in terms of, because what we're really trying to say is, what's the impact that parkrun is having on this? And potentially we could say, well, actually, we want cumulatively, how many times have people volunteered? Is that the right thing? Because if, say, we look at 2024 and we've got 720 volunteers, if we look at 2024 here, we can see there was 131 events held across the 3 locations that Sunderland has, and 720 unique people came. So we could kind of work out roughly how many that is. We could see we've had we've had in 2024, we had nearly 25,000 distinct or individual completions, events completed by 6,517 people. Do you see, you get to this question of, well, what's the right way to go with it? In fact, if we pick 2024, let's do that. Let me come out of here, just so it makes it easier. So we've got all the facts and figures there, haven't we? So we've got 3,340 volunteer events in terms of volunteer roles completed by 720 people. And even that volunteer roles isn't right. That's people have attended parkrun to volunteer. 720 distinct people have attended parkrun 3,340 times to volunteer, doing one or more roles at each time they attend. Yeah, we've had the 24,600 people who've come. We've had registered, nearly 24,000 have registered their finishes, which again is fine. There's nothing too bad with that. So you kind of get to that point. How do you present that information? And what we're getting to is really this understanding, isn't it? What's the goal of the report? And that's always the thing that we need as an analyst to start to think. What is the goal of the report that we are presenting? What is the objective? Because business intelligence has to be our goal. It has to be what we're wanting to do. Business intelligence is what will drive your company further forward. But if we get it wrong, it doesn't work. And if the message isn't right, it's difficult to then bring it back on track. So we've kind of looked at a few things just on one page of a report, haven't we? And we've kind of seen, oh, okay, yeah, there's some complexity here. In terms of this report, from my perspective and what I do, it's these 3 are probably the most important ones here. And we're really just using the map just to kind of show scale-wise what's happening across our area. Potentially, should that be, is it right that it's the way the dots are done, which is based on total completions, which in theory, well, it's average participation, average participants, but should it be average participants over a limited period, like the last 12 events? Is that the right way, as opposed to across all events, which is how it's working at the moment? And again, we haven't had these discussions. So for you, if you think in terms of your business, if you looked at average sales for a store, and you go through and you do average sales, are you then missing where a store is doing really well? And a classic example is, I actually have one brilliant, typical example for me. So during COVID, I worked for the UK HSA, UK Health Security Agency. And one of the things that I did was we looked at the enduring transmissions, which was looking at areas where COVID was really hammering us. And we found out that the way it was being calculated was based on across the outbreak, which potentially for a short outbreak is fine. But when you think that COVID as an outbreak crisis went on for 18 months or so, it stops working, because you end up with this area where you have mass testing and activity went on to a different level of order of magnitude different to everywhere else. So you still have these areas appearing in these reports that had like, oh, they're really, really bad, really bad. And then people say, oh, no, it doesn't matter. We know about that. That's from there. So, well, the metrics are wrong, is the way you would say it. And that's one of those, you need to be clear and understand what you're doing. And if you're explaining away metrics, oh, don't worry about that, it's wrong. Okay, you need to fix it, work out the right way. So these averages, potentially we should change these and look at that. So we can do that, can't we? One of the things I have done is I've updated these. As I say, this tooltip, I've updated this just so we've now got a year coming through. Probably put a label on it, just to make it clear. But it's nice to be able to see kind of thing what's actually going on. You can see here, for example, that 1st of January, Harrington County had a huge parkrun attendance. And corresponding as well, we see just at the December figure, so Christmas and New Year, they had big attendance in 2019 and 2020, which it happened, and obviously we know what happened. 2020 parkrun cancelled in the middle of March. It didn't come back till late 2021. So we've got this way, haven't we? We can go through and we can track. We've got the valid piece, this is the one which it always confuses everyone. Well, what's going on with this? So the average age grade across parkrun goes down, as over time. And the reasoning behind it is always, the mindset is around it's to do with the inclusivity of the event, that it goes from being about just like the hardcore runners who are fit and run. You now start to bring in people who, for want of a better word, they are less fit. They do not run as much. So, is it having more of a community impact? And you can see it goes from over 60% to now it's down, looking at the end, it's now closer to nearly 50%, 51, 50 to 53. So there's a huge change there, 10%. Now that's one of those areas where, we look and we're doing it in Sunderland, and I was just in Sunderland last week, and, Cat's talking about, we've got an obesity crisis here. Look, this is where we've got people coming out doing parkrun, celebrate it, let's do some more work with it. Yeah. So at Jesmond Dean, even just on Saturday, a lady was speaking to me saying, actually, I'm non-obviously disabled. It was really nice to actually come and to be spoken to politely by the volunteers, to be encouraged, to be supported around as I walked around the route. She was a park walker because she was volunteering. And it was something that she felt she'd been intimidated by, I guess would be the right word, although she didn't use that, but she didn't feel able to come because she was concerned. But she actually came and she said it was a really pleasant experience there. Thank you. And that's something that, there's a benefit there. That's all the volunteers come together to do that. So there's a benefit to the community beyond just the immediate health and well-being benefits that parkrun talks about. Yeah. So what do you reckon then? Okay. Context is really important. Your BI content needs to have context. So we've looked roughly and said, well, how do we lay it down? I think one of the things we need to think through is we've got some numbers that are just on those pages around. And I think a lot of those, we need to put some context around them. So like our number of finishers, we need to, we should really convert those into KPI cards. I think that was one of the things that I really want to do. So I think what we're going to do next week is we're going to look and start seeing what's the best way we can put KPI cards together for this to give a bit more context around what's going on with those numbers. Are they going in the right direction? Are they not going in the right direction? So it's something relative growth in terms of year over year, month over month, in terms of, those are all things we need to think through. What does that mean? And that's one of those areas that get involved. Say, well, what do you think? Go click, look at the report. Do you like the report? Is there something that you think, well, I wish this had this in it. I wish that had this in it. Okay. Because these are the things that when you're doing this in your business, you should be thinking about as well. Okay. As always, if you like what you've seen and you want, I wish we could get some more involvement here. It'd be really useful to get some help, guidance, support in doing this. Get in touch. There's a link down below. You can request a complimentary initial consultation meeting with Geordie Consulting, and they will help steer your company through here. They will also work to support you in plugging any data gaps you've got, skills gaps, and make sure that your teams are upskilled enough so that they can manage to run anything that we have built. Because ultimately, that is the point. If you do not own the solution that's built for you, you cannot get the most value out of it. For now though, stay safe, take care, ta-da.